we're doing something that we feel is important, and hopefully other people feel is important. Certainly the museum and the Hall of Fame feels that it's important. Otherwise you wouldn't have been storing all of this material all these years. So it's important. If it's important enough to save, it's important enough to restore and make available and accessible to the public. And that's kind of where we see our role.
So a lot of the archival material that you have hasn't been heard by anybody. And it doesn't matter how much of a collection you have, if you can't play it or you don't know what's on it, then it really doesn't, it's just a lot of stuff to look at on a shelf and it doesn't mean anything. So that's where we start to come in. The first thing we have to do is pretty much dehydrate it, because most of the tapes have somehow sucked up moisture over the years, and even if it didn't, it's still a good idea.
If any shedding occurs or the substrate sticks to the tape ahead of it, that material is lost. There is no way to retrieve whatever was on that piece of tape. It's just gone. So you have to basically evaluate it and dehydrate it before you ever do anything else with it.
Okay, and before you can dehydrate it, it has to be checked by hand for splices, especially splices. That would be the biggest thing, because if we start doing the dehydration process, the splices there's glue on the splices, and that may come off and damage the tape. So if there are any splices, we have to go back and get that off of there, clean off the glue, re-splice it with acid-free archival splicing tape that can handle this stuff. Then we go through a dehydration process, and that involves basically heat, time, and air circulation, and any combination of that. That usually goes from 8 to 12 to possibly 24 hours, depending on how bad the tape is. Then basically we put it on the machine. It goes through a digital to analog converter, and it goes into the computer at pretty high bit rate. So we're using 96K 24-bit conversion. Our program converts it up to 32 bits. So basically what you're getting is a 96 kilobit 32-bit copy. And that's a raw copy, that's an archive copy. That's going to go away locked up in a vault someplace, on the assumption that someday in the future people are going to have better restoration programs, and you don't want to run out of information, and you don't want to have to go back to the original and try to play the tape again. So you'll have something, you can go as far back, as raw as it possibly is, as good as we could get, with as much information on it that you could play with later. Then we take that archive copy and then we start working on it.
We make a copy, and David has modified and written some software programs, and we go through the archive copy, make a copy of it to generate a restored copy.
What we try to do is do a combination of everything that we've got in our arsenal, whatever it kind of needs, and each one is different, in order to get a good sounding copy without dramatically altering the sound of the original. That's the key. It's almost impossible to give you a dollar cost, but a time cost would be, when you take a reel-to-reel, it's going to take maybe an hour plus to evaluate it and see what happens, and maybe more if we have to go through the splices. It's going to take anywhere from 8 to 12 to 24 hours to dehydrate it and get it to the point where it's playable. It's probably going to take 20 minutes, a half an hour to adjust the machine. Again, it's dependent on the piece, because it has to go in real time. There's no magic cheat on that one. Then it can take, depending on how much it needs, it can take an hour to 6, 7, 8 hours to actually clean it up. Then it goes over to Donna for the tracking, and to track it, she's got to listen to it in real time. So there's, again, however long it takes, plus however long it takes for her to make the notes and assign it into tracking, then it has to be database, it has to be put into a database and coded.
So basically, again, we take our role as conservators very seriously. We believe that we're putting out something that is an important part of our history and is going to be sustained into the future. So, we're doing this because we love it. We love the material. We love working with people who care about preserving history. It's something that you can't really put a price tag on. I mean, you cannot put a price tag on some of the material that we're working with.